FM.
Okay, let's get our next guest on and I'll do a huge introduction. Okay, tonight on the KK Factor, I'm super excited to welcome a guest whose story connects Greece and Australia in the most unexpected but powerful way. Our guest is Shelley Dark, award-winning and bestseller author and the woman behind the remarkable books Hydra. Sorry about that. I just had an international call come through on the laptop. An award-winning and bestseller author and the woman behind the remarkable books Hydra in Winter and her latest historical novel, Son of Hydra. Shelley's journey began with one simple question from her son: are we Greek? That question opened a door no one saw coming. Her husband had no idea he had a Greek ancestry until Shelley uncovered that they are likely descended from Ghikas Voulgaris, a Hydriot pirate who went on to become one of Australia's very first Greek convicts. From there, Shelley's research took her across Sydney and New South Wales and then right across Europe, including Greece, England, Ireland, and Malta, and finally leading her to the island of Hydra. Shelley's memoir, Hydra in Winter, an island escape in search of a Greek pirate, documents that life-changing solo journey. It's been recognised as a notable book for 2025 and awarded a gold medal at the Global Book Awards. Her latest novel, Son of Hydra, brings Ghikas' story to life through historical fiction. Set between war-torn Hydra in the 1820s and the convict colony of New South Wales, it tells the powerful story of a young Greek man caught between honour and disgrace, wealth and ruin, learning their kindness, not power, defines a man. The book has just received a silver medal at the Global Book Awards for 25. Shelley has lived a fascinating life herself, from raising cattle on Queensland's Granite Belt to now calling the Sunshine Coast home, where she writes, travels, photographs the world through her iPhone, and proudly marvels at her grandchildren. This is a story of identity, history, Greece, Australia, pirates, resilience, and rediscovery, and I cannot wait to dive into it with her. Let's welcome to the KK Factor, the Greek Eurobeat Show, Shelley Dark, and thank you to Maria Karamitsos for the introduction. Shelley, can you hear us? No? Shelley? Okay, we can't hear Shelley. I think she needs to check. She'll be back. She's going to check things and she'll be right back. Amazing, absolutely amazing background of Shelley, and I really wanted to read that to you. So I was reading, of course. I can cover everything about this remarkable woman, and there's nothing like people that love writing stories that bring Australia and Greece together and talking about writers. So, and one of our very own, Julie Fisher, who has the diverse show here, The Unexpected Journey. She visited Oakley, yes, Greek, Athens, here in Australia, in Melbourne, Eaton Mall, for the very first time on the weekend. And obviously she fell in love. It was full Greek, thank goodness, because it was a beautiful sunny day. And then she got to meet Mr. Bill Papagiakis' brother, Nick, who's also an author and a writer. So it was an extra special time for her. Okay, we got Shelley back, but she's got two cameras on. Shelley, you do have two cameras on. Let me try your second camera.
Rula, can you hear me now?
I've got you, yes. You did have two cameras on, so I've got you now.
Yes, and I've turned off my computer and I'm just on my phone, so I hope it looks okay. I can't really.
That's fine. No, you've gone. That's it. Perfect.
Great.
Shelley, welcome to the KK Factor, the Greek Eurobeat Show. It's an honour to have you here to talk about your book, that amazing book.
Kalispera, Rula. It's absolutely lovely to be here.
Καλησπέρα, καλώς ήρθες στο πρόγραμμα, το ελληνικό αστρολογικό πρόγραμμα εδώ στο RPP FM.
I have to tell you, I don't speak Greek.
That's okay. You know, my partner always says there are Greeks and those that want to be Greeks.
Yes, and I'm the latter.
There you go. Shelley, let's start at the beginning. The moment when your son asked, are we Greek? What went through your mind and how did that one question change everything?
Yes, it certainly changed everything, Rula. I reacted as my husband reacted. There'd never been any suggestion of any such thing. His mother for all we knew, was sort of English stock, and his father was English stock as well. And so the thought that there was any Greek blood was a total surprise to all of us. And I think my husband just dismissed it. And as a
Too hard of a
consequence, so
question.
did my son. They just said, well, I don't know why that person said that. And he'd been down to the Snowy Mountains filming. And so, yes, they just decided that it must be wrong. But it just really intrigued me. I thought, why would anyone say that if there wasn't a grain of truth in it? But at that stage, it was in the 90s, I would think, that happened, and we didn't have internet. And so I had no chance really as a farmer in Queensland of doing anything much about it. But gradually, as the internet became faster at home, to begin with, you could walk to town more quickly than you could do your online banking.
Yeah.
But once it started to get a bit faster, then I found the Monero Pioneers website and discovered that, yes, I could see it's very extensive, the detail on it. And I very quickly discovered that it was right, that John is the great-great-grandson of a Greek pirate.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
That's what
you
I've got
can
to say.
imagine my reaction.
You know, I'm just going to cut in there. We just had the two Greek leaders earlier on the show, and predominantly today's show was going to be just yourself. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to put them first because of the conversation we were having about, the multicultural aspects and
Yes,
of people, and then follow that with you
love it.
because of the story of what your son said. You know,
Yes, yes. And I listened to them. I listened to your interview with them too. It was very interesting, Rula. I loved it.
thank you so much. Did you ever imagine that such a casual family curiosity would uncover one of Australia's earliest Greek stories?
Never, never. No, it was the biggest surprise to me. And because we were busy farmers, there wasn't really a lot I could do, even though I was fascinated by it. There wasn't a lot I could do at that stage. It was really only when we retired to the beach and I had fast internet and I had the ability to go and search, where before we'd had work commitments. So it
Yeah.
was only then that I could really, really start. And once I began, it became a real obsession. I just had to know everything about him, mainly because he was a pirate. And I thought, was my husband's great-great-grandfather a criminal? Like, was he violent? Am I married to, the great-great-grandson of a pretty
Is it the
bad
DNA?
guy?
Do you know what, Shelley? Your son asked the question, and then to find out that you actually do have a background and it's a pirate. You
Yes.
know how a child can then go, oh my goodness, this is in the family. How exciting.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, it was really quite phenomenal.
So when you
So,
first learned, sorry, I
mm,
interrupted.
no,
Go on.
go.
When you first learnt about, now, do I pronounce his name correct? Ghikas?
Ghikas, we
Ghikas
see.
Voulgaris. What
Yes.
shocked you the most? Was it the piracy, the death sentence, or the fact that his story had been almost forgotten?
I think the piracy. The piracy.
Yeah,
Yes, I
me
mean,
too.
lots of people have
Go on about the death
unusual.
sentence and jail terms. Who cares? Let's just hear about the piracy.
Exactly. I mean, that was where the romance lay, wasn't it? And when you think of pirates today, you think of piracy off the coast of Africa, where they really are
Oh,
very,
Johnny
very
Depp. If
bad
I
men.
hear the word pirate, Johnny Depp comes to my mind.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yes, yes. Not quite so much now. I imagine Ghikas as Jacob Elordi, or I keep googling Greek actors, trying to imagine who I would choose to play Gus in a movie,
Yeah.
because it's such an amazing story. I can't help thinking it's got to be a movie one day. It's really just so unusual. The whole
So,
the whole thing.
so realizing that your family history was tied to a Greek island with such a powerful past like Hydra,
Yes.
and you've got piracy now in your DNA, what did your friends actually say?
I don't. I think they probably all thought it was fairly unlikely too. You know, when it's not actually yours, it's just another detail, isn't it? But when it's actually your family, I think that's when it really becomes not only interesting, but really important that you
Yeah,
find out,
that's right.
And also, real right, did history at university, and I did Europe to 1815, but I have never, and I did ancient history, but I've never done modern Greek history, so I was pretty well ignorant of the revolution. And so it wasn't until I started reading Greek history that I realised the context of this piracy, that it wasn't just being pirates. There
Yeah.
was all sorts of hardship happening during the revolution, and they were trying to stop ships supplying the Turks or the Egyptians,
And
the allies.
all this research is research, but now it's become personal.
Personal, absolutely. Yes, I live, eat, and breathe Greek history now. And even though I've published the book and I've done that, took 7 years of
Wow.
traveling and researching and write, and I didn't know how to write. I thought when it first happened, and I thought I'd write it, I thought you just sat down and wrote a book. You just wrote a story. You were a storyteller. So it did take me very long to find out that novels have structure, and it took me 4 years to learn the craft of
Well
writing.
done. Well done. Good on you. Like,
Thank
good on
you.
you. I'm always in awe of women later on in life. We've raised our children, we're becoming grandparents, and we do end up doing things that maybe we thought about doing when we were younger, but we couldn't because of the family commitments and everything
Exactly.
else, and the routine in the
Mm,
family home. And I'm
yeah.
very much in awe, and I think it's fabulous because my father's always said to me, he says, I want at least 120. And he goes,
Yes.
men and women need to maintain their bodies and their minds. You can't stop once you retire from working. So you need to
No,
find those extra things that fulfill you, different
exactly.
activities and passions. And it's great. Your research took you across Greece, Europe, and Australia. Was there one place or moment that stayed with you the most emotionally?
Oh goodness, everywhere, ruler, because it was all I had to go everywhere. I couldn't write the book. Firstly, I went to Hydra because I didn't know anything about him. The ambassador to Greece, once the ambassador to Greece, Hugh Gilchrist, wrote, as you probably know, the definitive books about Greek Australians, and he devoted a couple of chapters to these fellows. But he thought that Ghikas was the son of a rich ship-owning family.
Oh, okay,
Now,
Onassis.
yes, I know exactly.
But he had a death sentence.
Not only a pirate, but the heir to a
Yeah.
fortune. My husband, I'm thinking, and so in order to find that out, who were his parents, because there was every chance that he wasn't that family either. He could have been any other Voulgaris. And so
Yeah.
I went to Hydra really to find out who he was at the beginning. At that stage, I wasn't writing the book. I just wanted to know. And John knew, that's my husband, knew that I was obsessed, absolutely obsessed with this. I'd already been all over New South Wales and the ACT, and I'd already done all that. And so in 2018, under the Christmas tree, there was a ticket to Hydra for me. And so I couldn't wait. That was
Oh, thank
December
you,
the
Santa.
25th. Yes, I was online booking my ticket. I found out first that the archives were open in the winter. And so once I knew that, I thought, I'm going straight away. I don't care if it's winter. And in
Tell us what
retrospect,
Hydra's like in winter, because let's face it, a lot of Australians that do visit Greece, they always like to go in the summertime. There's
yes,
another beauty to Greece in winter. Tell us the beauty that always remains in your mind about Hydra.
yes, Easter and winter, and I've been in summer as well. Easter and winter is so different. It is, you could shoot a cannon on the quay and you wouldn't hit anything. I'd look, and I took an apartment right on the water. I probably couldn't have afforded it in summer, but winter I could, and it was underneath a Voulgaris mansion, which I didn't know at the time, but I kept finding these, happenings, these serendipitous happenings. And so I was actually in a Voulgaris mansion looking out at the port, and there were no ships whatsoever on the main part of the quay. I was on the sort of the local boats side, and so my days were spent looking at fishermen mending their nets. You know, they had yellow nets, the wife and the husband, and playing a transistor radio with bouzouki music. It was like something out of a dream, you know, and I had it all to myself. And the restaurants, most of the restaurants weren't open, but the ones that were open for the locals. But I was often the only, and I didn't cook. I was often the only person in the restaurant. And so it came to the point where the restaurateurs would say, well, this is what I've got for you today. You know, they're just looking for me.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
yes, I mean, how special is that? You don't often have the privilege of that. And it also meant that in the off season, I mean, in the tourist season, everyone is so busy they don't have time to talk,
right.
or, you know, they're flat out just.
But now you're getting that
looking
quality
after.
time, and you can see where the word philotimo comes from.
Exactly. And so they've got time to talk and time to take an interest. So, you know, I got to know the people around the port, which was rather lovely. And it was lovely to go back in 2000. I was supposed to go back in COVID, but like everything else, you know, that fell over. Yeah. And so I went back in 2024 and saw everyone again, and that was so special as well. But the other thing about Hydriot winter is it's not baked brown. You know, Greece in summer, when the tourists are out, is baked brown. In winter, everything is green. All the wildflowers are blooming. The grass is soft
another
and
beauty, isn't
green.
it?
Yes, it was. I just felt so privileged, you know, and so lucky, really, because I didn't plan it that way. I just was breaking my neck to get there. It was just a magical, you know, piece of serendipity that I ended up there at that time.
Wow. I just want to ask one more question about Ghikas. If he was alive today, what do you think he'd want people to understand about him?
If he were alive today, what, Rula?
What would he want people to understand about him? Or how would today's people feel about him?
I think, you know, in my mind, he would be a fairly taciturn, gruff sort of man.
Yeah.
And I think he would want people to understand that he wasn't a pirate, that he didn't consider himself a pirate, you know, because that's the way we react, don't we, the Johnny Depp. I think he wanted to know that. And I also think he would want us to know that he didn't mean to bring shame on his family, which he obviously did. I mean, that was another thing that I discovered about him, that he was, in fact, the son of a rich ship-owning family.
Oh, he was.
Yes, he was.
And hence why he brought shame to the family.
Yes, yes. So I didn't find that out until I came home again. Maria Voulgaris on Hydra put me in touch with a genealogist, Mr. Mavrideros, in Athens. And so I didn't ever meet Mr. Mavrideros, but he and I had a snail mail correspondence that went on for a year. He was a very old-fashioned gentleman. He said, my dear, I do not do email. I only do post-mail. And so we wrote backwards and forwards with stamps. And every time we wrote, he would send me a gift. He'd send me a Greek flag or a book, or he was the most amazing man. But anyway, he couldn't find any trace of Ghikas anywhere. And he was writing a book about the family. And I said to him, there must be some way that we can work this out. And I said, what about I tell you what he called his children? That might help. And so through that, Ghikas' first child was a girl. He named her Xanthi, which was his mother, which was he was son of Nikolaos. We knew that from his death certificate. But Nikolaos, in the rich shipowning family, his second wife was Xanthi. His grandmother was Eleni Ghikas. His second one was Helena, his second daughter. So the boys were the same, Dimitri, etc. And so it almost mirrored the people in his family, to the extent that Mr. Mavrideros said, I think we can conclusively say that it is very, very like unlikely that he came from that family just because of those such close parallels, that there were, which was wonderful, because then it meant I could really start to imagine his life, because when I went there to Hydra, I didn't know that he was part of the ship owning family then, but in my dreams he was, and he was always going to be. And so that was the way, the prism I was looking at the island through, and I had been aware how enormously wealthy Hydra was in the late 1700s and early 1800s. I mean, vastly, vastly wealthy, as you probably know, and to the extent that they said that the ship owners sold in their water tanks and stacked it up on their roofs because they just didn't have room for it. And their houses were amazing, 4-story, a Contico, that were just amazing. And so all of that I was able to absorb when I went to Hydra. But once I'd done that, once I'd found out, of course, that he was the son of that family, then I wanted to know, why was he disowned? Why was he rubbed out of that family history? And of course, that's something we'll really never know. I've had to guess at that for Son of Hydra, but I've been able to make a fairly good guess, because I found out that the ship they lost was his cousin Dimitri's, and Dimitri became the Prime Minister, so he was quite a powerful fellow. And I began to think, if Ghikas took that ship without permission and lost it, and it was a very, very valuable ship, then of course he would be in trouble, because I kept thinking, if he were a freedom fighter only, his father would have been proud of him, wouldn't he? I kept thinking there's got to be a reason that he was disowned. And so that was a very, intriguing part of the whole story that I had to follow.
Shelley,
yes.
I've got a couple more questions I want to ask you, because I don't want to run out of time with you. As a grandmother, how many grandkids have you got?
2. No, 4. Sorry, can't count.
You've got
4.
4 grandkids. They say grandmas tell the best stories. Do you think one of them is going to follow in your footsteps?
Well, they're so differently talented, aren't they, kids? And you wouldn't have said
DNA.
that I was going
as long as there's no piracy in them.
What's that?
As long as there's no piracy in their DNA.
Exactly. That would be good if they weren't criminals. That would be a plus.
Tell me, did uncovering this history change the way your family sees itself now?
Yes, I think so. Especially since I've written these books, Rula. Your sense of self could remain the same as it was, could it, once you know about such an intriguing part of your history that you didn't know about. And they've all enjoyed reading Son of Hydra. I mean, the poor things have read it all through the 7 years until, they've had it coming out of their ears. But they've really enjoyed that part, And as my daughter said to me today, it's wonderful for the girls. She has 2 girls. It's wonderful for the girls to be able to read that and actually think, this is my great-great-grandfather that I'm reading about.
Isn't it wonderful? And my grandma is the one that brought it to light.
Yes, exactly, which has been such fun. And as you say, such a wonderful thing to discover late in life, that you've got a passion, that gets you up in the middle of the night to start writing, that keeps you up until dawn. You don't think that's going to happen to you when you're in your late 70s either. So it's wonderful to find that passion late in life.
Well done again to that. What has surprised you most about Greek audiences, especially Greek Australians? How have they responded to your work?
Oh, amazingly well. Yes, amazingly well. And I think too, there has to be an element, Rula. I'm not Greek, and I have written about a Greek boy. I mean, I'm a 78-year-old Australian woman, and I've written in the voice of a 22-year-old Greek boy. And that wasn't an easy thing to do, and I've been nervous about that. Nervous about writing as him, but also about doing him justice and feeling that Greek Australians would feel that I have respected his memory. And when I first published, or before I published actually, I sent it to Dean Kalemniou, and he read it, and
Yeah, he's
he said
amazing.
such wonderful things. He said he'd breathe through the book, and yes, he gave me I hadn't published it at that stage. So when he reacted so wonderfully favourably to it, it gave me the courage then to think that other Greek Australians might feel the same. And the reaction has been overpoweringly positive, which has been just very reassuring, but very, very rewarding as well.
Yep. We always say things happen for a reason. I always do, and things happen when they're
Mm,
supposed to happen. Do you think
yes.
this story was waiting for the right time, the right storyteller, so it can be told?
I'd like to think so, Rula. I felt, there were so many things, serendipitous things that happened. You just start to think this is meant to be. When I went to Idra, and I was thinking to myself, I can't write this book because I've never been on a sailing ship. How could I possibly write a pirate? And the man next to me was a super yacht captain in the Mediterranean. And he said to me, you just write to me, just ask me any question you want. When I went to Portsmouth, a retired rear admiral showed me over the Victory and told me all about, shipping in that time. And so they were able to read it and make sure that I had the sailing part right,
Yeah.
And then another vice admiral wrote to me a couple of weeks ago, just before, more than a couple of weeks ago, before I published, and he read it, and he was able to give me a bit more information. For instance, that the boys who weren't sent to Australia, there were 43 of them on board the ship, which I found out. All the records in Australia say there were 9 on the ship, but there were 43. So 34 men were sent back to Idra.
Yeah.
And Vice Admiral Kalogerakis, if that's how you say it, he was able to tell me that Kapodistrias called into Malta and took those boys home while the 9 men were tried. He took the others home on the ship that the British were taking him, to Greece to take up his new role as the first governor of Greece. So even now, and I was able to put that in the book, thank goodness, just before I published, but even now I'm finding out things, that I didn't know. So it's a continuing interest.
Be honest. Was there ever a moment where you thought, "How did I end up chasing a pirate across the world?"
How did I end up chasing him across the world?
Yeah. Did you ever think about that you were going to
No,
actually chase a pirate across the world at some
I
point in
did.
your life?
Yes, I did. Yes. And if he hadn't been 200 years old, my husband might have been worried about that, I guess. Yes.
What
But it was amazing, when you're sort of suddenly sitting in England and the Kew archives, and you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm actually in England researching a book as a writer, and I'm a cattle farmer. How did this happen? Or I'm in
Amazing.
Malta, in the underground cells where they were held, standing in a cell that they were in, and thinking, yes, it's surreal, really, Rula. It's been surreal, a surreal but
Amazing.
wonderful journey.
You're going to leave behind a fantastic legacy for your grandkids. I can tell you that. What do you
Um,
hope readers take with them after finishing Son of Hydra?
well, I really want Ghikas to be a folk hero. I feel that he has been. I mean, he's known in the Snowy Mountains area, and there are people who know of him as well through the Greek community, but he's not widely known, and he's certainly not widely known in the broader community, in the broader Australian community. So I really, really would like people to embrace him as a folk hero, but I'd also like them to realise that our first convicts weren't all Caucasians. They weren't all British
That's
poor
right.
felons. They
That's
came
right.
from Jamaica and Greece, and
We're all over the
we
world.
really were a multicultural society long before, the sort of World War II migratory business went on. And
Mhm.
also he married an Irish orphan, I mean, what an incredible multicultural marriage that was. An orphan with no money put together with the privileged son of a Greek ship owner who would have expected a woman to be chaste and obedient and silent. And he ends up with quite the opposite, so even that is, so I'd like people to realise that, yes, just how far back our Celtic roots go.
Amazing. And finally, I've got one last question for you because we are running out of time. If someone listening tonight is questioning their own family story, what would you say to encourage them to explore it?
Archives first, I guess. I mean, the baptisms, births, and deaths is a pretty good place to start. If if there's any record, which there wasn't for me, but also it's very good to look on Trove, all the old newspapers. That's very helpful too. But the archives in your capital city, the state library, the state libraries hold archives, and that's a great place to start too, Ruler. But do it. Don't think about it. Do it.
Just do it. Shelley, on that
Yes.
note, thank you so, so much. I can't wait to get my hands on the book, to read it, and for myself to learn more things. Thank you so much for coming live on RPP FM's the KK Factor, the Greek Eurobeat Show. It was most appropriate this evening following the two presidents. Thank you so, so much. Continue what you're doing. Don't stop, because you're going to be a true admiration to your grandchildren. And
Thank you,
thank you
Ruler, and thank
so,
you
so
very
much.
much for having me on. I've really appreciated it.
And I hope we meet in person. If I come up towards now,
I hope so.
are you in the Sunshine Coast or Brisbane? Where are you?
I am Sunshine Coast, and I hope I'm going to have a launch in Melbourne. I had a launch last year in
Please,
the
when you
Hellenic
do have a
Museum.
launch, please get in touch with me and let me know.
Yep,
Please
I
let me
will.
know. We do visit Brisbane often. The Sunshine Coast. We go to our favourite
Great.
spot there. We go to
Got my
Noosa,
phone
one of
number.
my little getaways, even for a couple of days. So 100% when we are going up there at some point soon, I know that, I will be in
Great.
touch so we can meet in person. Shelley,
Oh,
thank you so,
wonderful.
so much.
Wonderful. Thank you,
And,
Ruler.
and one of our
Good night.
listeners
Cutting
here,
down.
Alex, says, my 4 uncles were pirates. And he said, I was related to a royal family. Well, there you go.
There
Thank
you
you so
go.
much, Shelley.
Thank you.
Yasu.
Good night. Yasu.
How amazing was she? Absolutely adorable. Thank you so much, Miss Shelley Dark.